Oh no. Morning. Little change of scenery today. I'm out here in Arizona. We come out here every year for opening day of dove hunting. September 1st, go bird hunting with my in-law, my father-in-law, and all the family comes up and meets up at my in-law's house. And this morning I opened up my phone, or last night I opened up my phone, and Randy has a video that B.A.S.S is taking forward-facing sonar out of their tournaments. And then I followed up. I watched Tyler Bridges, I think his name is, Tyler, you guys know Tyler from Fishing HQ. I like his takes. And then I just watched Ben Milliken's take on the whole forward-facing sonar thing. Now I need to be super clear, because a lot of people in my comment section think that my gripe that I have with Randy Blockett is about forward-facing sonar. The whole, is it good, is it bad, is it cheating, is it this, is it that? And my gripe with him, it has nothing to do with forward-facing sonar at all. In fact, I don't even really watch professional bass fishing. I'm not like super into professional bass fishing. I like to fish myself. I like to go out and figure it out on my own. I don't use a lot of technology on my boat. I don't have like 360 or any of these really advanced units. I have very base level equipment on my boat myself. So my issue with Randy has nothing to do with forward facing sonar. But I did watch a couple of people's takes on what's going on with this new rule set and forward facing sonar. And between the three that I watched, obviously Randy doesn't think it's going far enough, and Ben thinks that it's going to hurt it completely. And then Tyler is in the middle. He's like, yeah, it's going to be good. We'll see what happens. Whoop-de-whoop-de-woo. So I thought maybe I would give my take on this whole forward-facing sonar thing and what I think these fishing organizations should do. Now, I talked about this in one of my very first videos about Randy, about him crashing out about forward-facing sonar. And I honestly probably would agree with Randy on a lot of this. However, I do not think it's a cheater box. Cheating, when you say cheating, it makes it sound like, oh, I would have won, but you cheated. And the best analogy I can use, because Randy does train jiu-jitsu, I'm pretty sure, is when UFC first started, you had obviously a bunch of different kind of fighters going out there and fighting, and then the Gracies showed up with jiu-jitsu and started dragging everyone to the ground and choking everybody out. And in the very beginning, everyone's like, this is cheating, this is stupid, it's not fighting, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, then beat it. Learn to beat it. And that's kind of how I look at this forward-facing sonar thing. It helps you find these fish, but you can't make a fish bite. Oh, so that brings me to Randy's other big point that he always likes to say, is it's spotlighting. And I don't think it's spotlighting either. Spotlighting is when you go out at night and you shine a deer with the spotlight and it stops dead in its tracks, and you get your rifle sight on it and you smoke the deer. That's spotlighting. This is showing you, Tyler had a really good analogy about this, and I did talk about, I used this analogy in my other video. Forward-facing sonar is like, or the 2D and forward-facing sonar analogy is, 2D is you go out into the woods at night and you're at the tree line and there's deer out there, but you don't know where, and you're just shooting randomly in the wood. That'd be 2D sonar. Where forward-facing sonar is hunting in the woods in the day, and now you can see where the deer are, but you got to get them, right? So I probably butchered it. He tells it way better. But I think that's like the best way to break down forward-facing sonar. So now, my takes on what these tournament organizations should do is make classes. And I talked about this in other videos, is it doesn't make sense to have it's basically an unlimited class. And that's the way I look at it. You know, my background is in off-road racing. You know, you got the trophy truck guys, which are unlimited budget, unlimited suspension, unlimited horsepower, whatever you can afford to build it. And as long as it has a truck body on it, race it. Like, there's very little rules when it comes in the higher classes. And then you have like the buggy guys, you know, the class 11 guys that are racing. It's basically a stock Volkswagen. They're like really strict parameters around what they're allowed to do to the car. You know, you obviously need a roll cage and a fuel cell and stuff to keep you safe. But there's very strict parameters, and I think that if these and people gravitate to these different disciplines, and I think if these tournament organizations did the same thing, you would get guys that are like really into, you know, under 150 horsepower with only one, you know, 9-inch graph on the boat. You'd get a lot of guys that are those ride or die guys that want to keep the sport traditional. And then you'd get the modern guys that have the unlimited budget. You know, one of Randy's big gripes is there's too much money in bass fishing. You know, you got some kid driving a $100,000 pickup truck with a $150,000 boat behind it. And that's the same thing with my off-road analogy. You know, the higher class guys, they have crazy money. They have crazy sponsorships. You know, they got General Tires giving them tires for the season. You know, other companies paying their entry fees and stuff like that, where the class 11 guy is probably just some dude in his garage and he's getting his buddies together on the weekend to prep the truck or prep the buggy and doing everything, scraping every penny they can get together to get down to Mexico and go race. But there's classes for each guy, but there's not in these tournament fishing, and it doesn't make sense. You know, like my bass boat, I have it's a Ranger RT 188 aluminum boat. It's under 19 feet, you know, 18 feet 8 inches. I have a 7-inch graph up front, and I have a 7-inch graph on the console. It's a Lowrance hook on the console, a Lowrance Elite up front. It's got the triple shot. I don't know how to use any of that crap. I turn it on every once in a while to try to figure it out, and I get frustrated with it, and I just go back to 2D, and I'm like, hey, there's some grass right there. We're in 18 feet of water, whatever it is, you know? And I would fish some of these bigger tournaments if they were like local, if one came to town and, you know, the entry fee was $500 or something, and I would fish stuff like that. But when you're fishing against the unlimited guys, it doesn't make sense. There's no way I could compete. Not even a little bit I could compete. So why isn't there different brackets? There isn't different classes. It just doesn't make sense to not have different classes in a sport like this. That's my take on it. And what would happen, I think what would happen is you'd get a lot of people gravitating toward, you know, not using forward facing. You'd have a bunch of maybe newer, younger kids that understand the technology way better using forward facing sonar, and nobody would watch them because nobody would want to watch them. Now, listening to Ben Milliken's take on all this, as much as everyone thinks nobody wants to watch forward-facing sonar, the numbers have come out, and people are watching it just as much as they were before. And I understand why. People like to see, you know, back to my fighting analogy, people like to see knockouts. If they took knockouts out of UFC and they said you can't knock each other out, nobody would watch UFC, or a lot less people would watch UFC. And so people like to see people catch fish, and they're catching fish with these forward-facing sonar, and they're catching big fish. You know, Randy did a video that when he talked about this bass taking forward-facing sonar up, he had mentioned how tackle sales have dropped, and Ben also mentioned this in his video, but it's because of social media. What happened was during COVID, everyone was sitting around the house watching YouTube videos and buying tackle and going out fishing and doing all this stuff. And now that COVID's gone and everyone's getting back to life and stuff, probably not as many people are fishing. I guarantee you a lot of people that got into fishing during COVID and watching a bunch of social media stuff, realized they don't like bass fishing, or it's too tough, or it's not really for something for them. I'll tell you this much: I bought a couple of rod and reels off a guy off of OfferUp, some really nice Daiwa combos, and he actually brought them to my house. And when I was talking to him, I'm like, dude, these are brand new. He's like, yeah, I bought them. He's like, it wasn't really for me. That was one of those guys that probably was sitting around during COVID and was like, I live close to a lake, maybe I'll get into fishing. Bought some really nice gear, and ended up selling it to me for a fraction of what he paid for it. I'll tell you that much. So I don't know. That's kind of my take on the whole forward-facing sonar thing. It's not something I'm into. Also don't think it should be taken away. It definitely will help you find the fish, but it ain't gonna help you catch the fish. You know, bass aren't, you're not shooting a rifle at them like, you know, spotlighting. You're having to still convince the fish to bite. You know, you could follow the fish all you want. You could follow it for hours and hours and hours. It doesn't mean it's going to eventually bite, you know. I mean, it could. You definitely could coax it into biting eventually, but especially with these bigger fish, they're smart, and they're like, this guy's been following me with this sonar for the last hour, and just kind of avoid him. I don't know. So yeah, that's my take on it. I think it is what it is. I don't know that forward-facing sonar is going to go anywhere. And Ben also mentioned, you know, once AI starts getting involved in this, Randy's also mentioned this, that Ben even admitted that there's probably going to need to be, we're going to have to reel it back a little bit once we're taking the actual skills out of catching the fish, not finding the fish, but actually catching the fish out of it. And I'm sure AI is quickly catching up, or, you know, we'll be here soon enough. So those are my takes. Tell me what you guys think in the comments. Should there be different classes? I think there should be different classes for sure.